if right now it's very, very hard to stay updated with what's going on in the region when you have only two markets that are really developed startup ecosystems, how hard will it be when the Philippines, when Malaysia, when Vietnam are all very developed startup ecosystems, right? It would be even more difficult to stay updated with the region. And I realized that would be a problem that will pop up very, very soon, because I know that in the Philippines, I have this many startups that I'm working with already that are not in all of these publications like Tech in Asia, E27.
Hi everyone, this is the Peking University HSBC Business School Entrepreneurship Society. Today we are speaking with Amanda, the founder of BackScoop. So may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas, for inviting me. So basically, I'm Amanda, and I run BackScoop. It's a daily newsletter that makes it fun and easy to stay updated with everything going on in Southeast Asian business and startups. What we do is we basically compile all of the must-know and most relevant news for you, pick them from all of the best sources, and compile them into one newsletter that's easy to read, easy to understand, and very fun to read. You can read the whole newsletter in about 5 to 7 minutes with your morning coffee.
Thank you so much for the introduction. My next question is, why did you decide to start BackScoop, and how has the journey been so far to grow this newsletter?
Yeah, so I started BackScoop late last year, around August, so very close to 1 year with BackScoop. It basically started because I was actually working at a different startup here in the Philippines. It's an early stage startup called Avian School. I happened to join the company as their first employee. And what we did is we basically trained Filipinos to be software engineers and placed them at some of the best companies in the Philippines and Southeast Asia and also in the West. And there I worked with a lot of companies in the region and locally. And I saw how hard it was to keep up with all of the companies in the region that were raising money, that were super exciting, and all these other things. And I kept up with the news regularly because it was part of my job. And it was already very, very hard. And if you look a bit into more detail, it was really difficult to keep updated with everything when only, let's say, Singapore and Indonesia are the developed startup ecosystems in Southeast Asia. And then factor in the part that I was working at a startup here in the Philippines, and I worked with a lot of different and very early startups here as well. And I saw that I was partnering with so many companies here and so many startups here that I didn't know existed. And the number was growing so fast. So basically, I realized that if right now it's very, very hard to stay updated with what's going on in the region when you have only two markets that are really developed startup ecosystems, how hard will it be when the Philippines, when Malaysia, when Vietnam are all very developed startup ecosystems, right? It would be even more difficult to stay updated with the region. And I realized that would be a problem that will pop up very, very soon, because I know that in the Philippines, I have this many startups that I'm working with already that are not in all of these publications like Tech in Asia, E27 and such. I guess the journey has been really insightful. I think I've learned a lot about the different startups in the region. I've written about everything from like edtech and fintech, the classic ones, to things that are a bit more difficult, like construction, supply chain, and Web3. So you see all of these really exciting startups come up from all of these different countries in Southeast Asia. And you've been able to see, well, I guess I've been able to see the growth of all of these different countries and industries. And that's been very, very exciting for me. It just shows that the bet I had initially, which was that the region would grow very fast, especially these emerging ecosystems like the Philippines, was true. Because when I started, it was really a lot of IPOs in Indonesia. But as the months went on, I started covering a lot more of the Philippines, a lot more Vietnam, a lot more Malaysia, and that was great to see. On the personal side, I think it's very, very difficult to start anything from scratch. But I think I'm lucky to have found, an idea I'm really, really excited about working on. And so that makes all of the difficult parts a lot easier to bear.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. It certainly sounds very exciting. May I ask, what's next for BackScoop?
Yeah, so what's next for us is we really want to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Right now, we're actually growing much, much faster. So there are times where we're growing up to 5 to 7%. And we recently just crossed 5,000 subscribers. And everyone there is really a founder, an executive, a VC, or a startup operator. And we're very close to hitting 5,500 just a few weeks after. So we're very, very optimistic that we can actually get as close to 50,000 as possible. It's really about, being able to bring BackScoop to the people that really need it. Because if you just think about it, how many people work at GoTo Group? There are thousands of people working there. And how many other startups are here in the region? There are just so many people that probably also need an easy way to keep up with the region because their jobs are already so busy. So the rest of the year is really focused on how do we get to more of those people and bring BackScoop to them and help, improve their day-to-day with that. And the second thing is monetizing BackScoop. So one of the big goals we have this year is actually to release advertisements for the newsletter and I guess hit profitability with that. So those are the two main things that we have next.
Thank you. It sounds very exciting. And then also, I saw that you cover hundreds of startups. So may I ask, what are the trends in the Southeast Asian startup ecosystem that excite you?
I think, you look at every country and there's always disparity, right? I think in Singapore, you have a lot more of other kinds of startups that you wouldn't see as much. For example, the Philippines, you see more of AI, you see more of drones and things like that, a lot more advanced technologies in Singapore. I guess in Indonesia, you see that it's a much more developed startup ecosystem, but unlike, Singapore, I think the whole country is a little less developed. So you have a lot more people, for example, working on earned wage access. You have people working on things for blue collar jobs. So they're still, I think, working on a lot of things that are very helpful infrastructurally and very helpful to people who are middle income and low income. I think that's what I see, for example, for Indonesia. For countries, for example, like the Philippines, it's also infrastructural, but it's not as much variety, I guess, as what you'd see in Indonesia. Maybe in Indonesia, you have 3 of the same kinds of fintech that help the same kind of market. But in the Philippines, there are a lot less, for example, startups in the fintech space, a lot less startups in the edtech space and things like that. You have, I guess, less replicas. But, I think it's really just because of the stage of the ecosystem, right? Because Indonesia is much more developed. They're about maybe 5 years advanced or more. That's why you see so many replicas, so many infrastructural startups that are working on the same thing. I think the Philippines is still building up on the early days of that. I think it's still very, very early, but definitely it's very exciting here. We're the second most populous country in Southeast Asia compared to Indonesia. We have such a large English-speaking market. So I think in just a few years' time, you'll see the seeds that are planted now bear fruit a lot more, and you'll see maybe a lot more replicas here as well. But I think that would be great because you'll see a lot more competition and a lot more startups that are working on the same problem. And hopefully those will really find the best solutions for the people here.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. That's all the questions that I have. Thank you so much for your time.